Hello, everyone. On today's podcast episode, I'm going to talk about, the IQ test again. On a previous episode, I don't remember what episode number it is, I talked about the IQ test. In this episode, I'm going to continue off where I left off. And like I said before, I really don't believe in the IQ test. I believe it's too subjective. The reason why I believe it's subjective is, this very question. If the IQ test tests people who are smart, right? Is the test that determines how smart a person is. You know, what determined who gave the IQ test? How do we determine how smart the people who created the IQ test are? Do we just assume they were smart because someone says so? The people who created the IQ test, what determined their intelligence level? How did we decide who can create an IQ test and who can't? The government? We already know that there's a lot of corruption within the government. Would you allow the government to decide who can create an IQ test and who can't? Is it a school, a body of schools? Intelligence and schools are not synonymous. You go to school to learn knowledge. You don't go to school to increase your intelligence. You're born with a certain level of intelligence, right? And that level of intelligence stays with you to the day you die. If you're born with Down syndrome, you will have Down syndrome to the day you die. Going to school will not automatically change you from having Down syndrome, right, into a normal, able-bodied human. If you're born without a brain, going to school will not automatically bring that brain in. Will not automatically give you a brain. So there's a bottleneck to school. A bottleneck, schools do not test you on your intelligence. They test you on the amount of knowledge you have. And the amount of knowledge you have can be determined by your perseverance. Your intelligence level is not the only thing that determines how much knowledge you can get from schools. People who pass tests in schools, right? People who pass with flying colors may not be that intelligent. Why? Because you don't have to be intelligent to pass a class. If you're someone who has, extra teachers, you pay tutors behind the after school. If you have after school tutors to teach you, right? You learn more than people who just, go to class and go home. If you're someone who's very determined, like you like going to school, you'll pass more, it's easier for you to go, to pass the test than everyone else. And not everyone likes going to school, whether you're intelligent or not. Some people are too busy with their own lives. They have kids and they move on with life. They don't have time for school. Some people don't like the whole concept of school to begin with. It's not because they're not intelligent, but because they just don't like, having to pay someone to teach them. Paying them money that they don't have, So there are many factors that influence whether someone graduates from school or not. And intelligence isn't one of them. There's societal expectations, why people pass with flying colors. There's so many different influences that can, that factors into whether someone graduates with a PhD or not. Some people will never graduate with a PhD because, they just give up. They got a job somewhere. They just decide to just drop out of school and continue on where they left off. Forget school. I'm already getting paid a lot of money. It's not because they're not smart, but because they already, they got sidetracked. So that the people with PhDs are the people with PhDs smarter than them, all because they got a better job, they got a great job, and if they go back to school, they'll have to quit their job to go back to school. Does it automatically mean the people that got a PhD are smarter than them? No. So school is not being able to graduate from school shouldn't be a deciding factor on intelligence alone. There has to be more criterias, more rules that govern what can be considered an intelligent person. Your ability, the amount of knowledge you have does not automatically mean you're smarter than other people. A computer can be filled with a lot of knowledge. You know, does it mean that a computer is smarter than a human being? No. You can download a lot of stuff on your hard drive. Does that mean your hard drive is smarter than you? No. Knowledge does not mean you're smarter than someone. Having a lot of knowledge does not mean you're smarter than everyone around you. It just means you've learned more. You've learned more does not mean you're smarter than other people. So the people that created this IQ test, right, are learned men. Most of them are probably people who've already, has a PhD, doctorate, whatever, I think it's probably the same thing. These learned men, right, may not be the smartest people in the world. Yes, they graduated with, honors, but it doesn't mean they're smarter than everyone else around them. It just means that they decided to finish school while others decided to do something else with their life. That's all it means. While they decided to focus on school, everyone else decided to focus on something else. There are too many things in life that can distract you. During your life, there's so many things that distract you. You have kids, you have family members, with their own problems and issues. There are too many things that can distract you from going to school. So just because you finish school does not mean you're smarter than everyone. Because everyone else are always busy with their lives. Their parents could have died and they decided to just drop out to take care of the family. There are many things that can influence someone, many things that can influence someone's life. There are many ways, life is always filled with drama. There's always something going on in life. Because you finished school with honors does not mean you're better than the people who didn't. The people who didn't may have been distracted by life itself. That's why they didn't, finish with a PhD. There's so many things that can influence, a person's life. So just because someone graduated a PhD does not mean that person is smarter than everyone else. It just means that person was less distracted while going to school than everybody else. That person was more determined to pass, to graduate with honors than everybody else, because everybody else were too busy living their lives to be paying attention to, graduating. They didn't put graduating, with honors as a priority, because they didn't put it as a priority. They won't get it. It's not because they're not smarter than you. It's not because they're smarter than you or they're not smarter than you. It just means they have something better else to do with their lives. So you graduated with honors, because you're more determined to graduate with honors, while they did something else that they weren't determined to do. You were determined to graduate with honors, right? The person who graduated with a PhD was determined to graduate with a PhD. Everyone else was determined to do something else. That's why they didn't graduate with a PhD. Or they didn't graduate, with flying colors. They had better things to do in life. Or they had other things to do in life. Priorities determine whether you graduate with a PhD or not. Some people's school is not that much of a priority. They have kids to raise. They have families to take care of. They have, their own mouths to feed. Some people have to take care of themselves. Some people have to take care of themselves and their family. Some people have to take care of themselves, their family, and their friends. There's so many factors, in everyone's life. There are too many things that go wrong in life. Your parents could die. Siblings could die. Parents could get sick. Siblings could get sick. You could get sick. You could, fall ill for a very, very long time. There are too many things that influence a person's life as they grow up. So you graduating with a PhD does not automatically mean you're smarter than everyone else by default, because intelligence is something you're born with. You're either born intelligent or you're not. So if people who created the PhD test, if there's no way for us to determine, no accurate way for us to determine that they're smarter than us, right? You can't determine it using school because they graduated with a PhD. Just because you graduated with a PhD does not mean you're smarter than everyone. Because intelligence is not something you can get from school. Since it's not something you can get from school, we need a different criteria that determines who is more intelligent and who's not. We should allow the people who are more intelligent to create the IQ test. And we have no way to determine who's more intelligent. We don't have a way, a unified, objective way to determine who's more intelligent. If the government determines who's more intelligent, the government can decide that their friends and family are more intelligent than you. The friends and family that graduated with a PhD, they are more intelligent than you. Would you agree if some leader of your country decided that, hey, these guys are more intelligent than you? Arbitrarily just decided that these guys are more intelligent than you. Would you agree to that ruling? Many people will say no. Especially when you know you're smart, if you know you're more intelligent than the leaders themselves, then you obviously know that these leaders will not pick the right person because they're not smart enough to decide who the right person is. If they're not smart enough to decide who the right person is, guess what? They'll end up picking someone who's not that smart. And that person will create an IQ test, right? That, from their point of view, that, shows who a smart person is and who a dumb person is. Won't you think that test is rigged? It's from their point of view. The people who created this IQ test, right? This is their point of view. This is what they think makes someone smart. This is your subjective view of what an intelligent person is. Their subjective view determines who's smart on the IQ test and who's not. If they can pass their IQ test with flying colors, right? If they can get 100% on their IQ test, it shows that the IQ test is rigged. It's no different from me creating an IQ test, right? Me creating my own IQ test where I always pass and everybody else fails. So if I create an IQ test that I always pass and you guys fail, does that automatically mean I'm smarter than you guys? No. How do we determine, the IQ or the intelligence level of the people creating the IQ test? The people creating the IQ test, we must first figure out how smart they truly are first. If most people determine they're not that smart, how come they can create an IQ test when they aren't that intelligent? Why are you allowing people you don't know to influence influence your view, the view of yourself? How come you're allowing someone else to determine your worth? By saying, by agreeing with the IQ test, you've allowed a bunch of random strangers that you don't know, that may not be as smart as you, to determine that you are not as smart as they are. Because their test is subjective from their point of view. It's their desires, their opinion of what a smart person is. They've determined that this is what a smart person is. It's a subjective view of what a smart person is. If you take their test, you're being manipulated into thinking that you're not smart because you don't fit their criteria of what a smart person is. And their criteria is too subjective to be accurate. Everyone in this world is subjective. What I call a smart person may not be what you call a smart person. What you call a smart person may not be what someone else calls a smart person. The traits you look for to determine whether someone's smart will be completely different from the trait that someone else looks for. The traits that the people who created this IQ test are looking for may not be the traits that actually, may not be the real traits of a real intelligent person. Because the test is subjective. It's from their point of view. It's their opinion of what a smart person is. If you take their test and you automatically now think, you start thinking you're smart, it doesn't mean you're smart. You're taking a false test. Even if you score 1,000,000 points on the IQ test, right? Who cares? It's someone's subjective opinion. Yes, you get a cookie. You've proved yourself to be a tool. You've proven yourself to be, someone who can be easily manipulated by others, manipulated into thinking, you're smart. They tell you you're smart and you believe it. They tell you you're dumb and you believe it. Any person can just create an IQ test and just start telling you you're a dumb person and you would just believe it. You have to be you have to be careful in life. This world is filled with very manipulative people. It's easier to sin in this world than it is to be a good person. It's easier to lie than it is to tell the truth. It's easier to scam others than it is to be an honest person. It's easier to go to hell than it is to go to heaven. Do not allow people to influence you into thinking you're dumb when you're not. The whole IQ testing is rigged. One moment they'll say they're subjective, one moment they say this is an objective fact. And then, a few years from now, I bet you within like the next 40 years, the questions on the IQ test will change. Within the next 40 years, they will change the questions on the IQ test. And if they change the questions on the IQ test, doesn't that automatically invalidate all the previous IQ tests taken? Doesn't that make the people who took the IQ test before, wrong? All the tests they took was obviously not accurate. If you change the questions on the test to make it more accurate, it means the test previously was never accurate to begin with. So all those people who took the IQ test in the past, were all, taking a fake test, an illusion. They thought they were smart when they never were, or they thought they were dumb when they never were. This is the problem with taking these subjective tests, is that, you're just being manipulated. The people who got the IQ test, what determines how smart they are? The ones who created the IQ test. Who gets to determine how smart they are? How do we figure out how smart these people are? If they aren't that smart to begin with, now you're taking an IQ test created by dumb people. And now a group of dumb people, right, are telling you you're a smart person, you believe it. You're very naive to believe someone you don't know. You don't know how smart these people are. Just because they graduated PhD does not mean they're automatically smarter than you. Knowledge and intelligence are not the same thing. Your hard drive can be filled with a lot of knowledge. You can stuff a lot of information inside your hard drive. An AI can be filled with a lot of knowledge. Does that mean that AI is smarter than you? No. Does that mean your hard drive is smarter than you? No. Knowledge and intelligence are not the same thing. If the intelligence tests your knowledge, then it's not an intelligence test. You were born with a certain level of intelligence. No matter how much knowledge you have, you'll still have that level of intelligence. Even if you have no knowledge in your head whatsoever, your intelligence level will never change. You will still be smarter than everyone around you. Even if you have no knowledge of the world, you will still be smarter than everyone around you. You will still be smarter than someone with Down syndrome. You will still be smarter than someone without a brain. Even if you have no knowledge of the world around you, you will still be smarter than someone without a brain. This is the difference between intelligence and knowledge. If the intelligence test tests your knowledge, it's not an intelligence test. It's a knowledge test. And this is the problem with life. You have to be very careful. Do not let anyone determine your worth. These tests can be easily manipulated to make you look like a worthless piece of crap. You're not a worthless piece of crap in this world. Don't let another human being tell you you're worthless. Do not let other people tell you you're worthless. Because you know how life works? First, they'll devalue you, right? And then they'll use that excuse to kill you. First, a racist person will tell you you're worthless. And then they'll kill you because they believe you're worthless. First, they'll create an IQ test to determine your worth. Then they'll kill you because you're worthless. Those who have a low IQ test, sooner or later will start, it's only a matter of time before these elitists will have an elitist mindset that somehow an IQ test, this subjective IQ test, can be used as an objective fact. It can't. An IQ test is subjective. It is not accurate in any ways. The only person that can truly create an IQ test that's accurate is God. Because God is the only person that has all the information of the world. God is the only person that has, 100% information about how the world works. 100%. God is the only one that knows for a fact how intelligence works. God is the only one that can create, an IQ test that's objective. Everyone else's IQ test will always be subjective by default. You can never create an objective IQ test. It will always be subjective because we do not have enough information about intelligence itself for us to know who's more intelligent, who's less intelligent. There's not enough information on what intelligence really is. Since there's not enough information, why are we arbitrarily creating IQ tests to determine people's worth when, we don't have a full understanding of what intelligence truly is? Many people think intelligence and knowledge are the same thing. They are not. They just aren't. So you have to really be careful in life. Do not let someone else determine your worth. Do not be naive enough to believe other people's words. If someone tells you you're worthless, it doesn't mean it's true. If someone tells you you have a high IQ, it doesn't mean you're more intelligent than everyone else around you. It just doesn't. If someone tells you you have a low IQ, it doesn't mean you're less intelligent than everyone around you. It doesn't mean that. The IQ test is subjective. It's rigged. There's no objective test in this world, that can determine your intelligence level. Because we don't have a full understanding of what intelligence is yet. Since we don't have a full understanding, 100% understanding of intelligence, we shouldn't be creating, these arbitrary tests that always have the questions change every few years. If the questions change every few years, obviously the test is rigged. The test is broken. An objective test, will never have the questions change. They will never have to reward the questions every few months. The fact that they're always changing, they have to. They don't have enough information about intelligence to begin with. So sooner or later, they'll have to change the questions on the test. And the moment they change the question on the test, all prior tests that people have taken are invalidated. It means the IQ test you're taking right now, if they change the test in the future, it means this one is, bogus. This one was useless to begin with. Your IQ was wrong. Your IQ level is wrong because they'll change the test in the future. There's a high chance that questions in the test will change in the future. So, that's it for today's podcast episode. Do not let someone else determine your value. Do not let anyone else tell you you're worthless. You are not worthless. This whole test, this whole IQ test is a scam. I pray for everyone's good health and safety. Amen. See you guys later. Bye.